Whispers in the dark. First, stolen moments. The stone corridors of Hogwarts were silent at night, filled only with the distant echoes of enchanted torches flickering along the walls. The castle breathed mystery, each shadow holding secrets that weren't meant to be seen. And Hermione Granger was about to step into one. Her pulse raced as she moved quickly down the empty hallway, her robe billowing behind her. She shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be doing this. But when had? Shouldn't ever stopped her. A strong hand reached from the darkness, pulling her into an alcove hidden behind a towering suit of armor. She gasped softly, her back pressing against cold stone, before she looked up and met his gaze. Draco Malfoy smirked, his silver eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Right on time, Granger." Hermione swallowed hard, her heart hammering against her ribs. "You nearly gave me a heart attack." "Wouldn't want that," he murmured, leaning in just enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "Then who would meet me here at midnight?" She huffed, pushing lightly against his chest, though she didn't truly want him to move. "This is the last time, Malfoy." Draco raised an eyebrow, tilting his head slightly. "You said that last time." Hermione opened her mouth to protest, but before she could, his fingers brushed against her wrist, trailing upwards in a slow, teasing motion. She shivered involuntarily. "Tell me to stop," Draco whispered. Hermione clenched her jaw, every logical thought in her head screaming at her to end this. This was reckless, dangerous. If anyone found out, the consequences would be unbearable. But she didn't tell him to stop. Instead, she tilted her chin up defiantly. "You're insufferable." A smirk curled his lips. "And yet, you're still here." And then his lips were on hers, soft but demanding, as if he was daring her to push him away. But she didn't. She kissed him back. 2. A dangerous game. The next morning in the Great Hall, Hermione sat between Harry and Ron, her hands gripping the edges of her book just a little too tightly. She could still feel Draco's touch lingering on her skin, his breath ghosting against her lips. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He was Draco Malfoy, Slytherin prince, the boy who had tormented her for years. She was Hermione Granger, war hero, Gryffindor's brightest witch. And yet, as she risked a glance toward the Slytherin table, she found him already watching her. His expression was unreadable, his usual arrogance carefully masked behind indifference. But his eyes told another story. Heat pooled in her stomach, and she quickly looked away. Ron was too busy stuffing his face with toast to notice, but Harry's sharp gaze flicked to her. "Everything okay, Hermione?" She forced a smile. "Of course." A lie. A carefully constructed, well-practiced lie. Because nothing about this was okay. 3. Shadows and confessions. A week passed, and Hermione had done her best to avoid him. No late-night meetings, no stolen glances, no reckless kisses pressed against hidden walls. But Draco Malfoy was nothing if not persistent. She should have expected him to find her, and he did. The library was nearly empty when he appeared behind her chair, his voice a low drawl. "Running away from me, Granger?" Hermione's quill snapped. She inhaled sharply, placing her hands flat on the table. "I told you, whatever this was, it's over." Draco exhaled slowly, and to her annoyance, took the seat beside her. He didn't speak immediately, just studied her, as if searching for something. Then quietly he said, "You can lie to yourself all you want, but don't lie to me." Hermione turned to glare at him, fully prepared to argue, but the intensity in his gaze stole her words. "Tell me," he murmured, leaning in so that only she could hear. "When you close your eyes at night, do you forget how I feel?" A shudder ran through her. She hated him. She hated how he knew. She started, but the words stuck in her throat. Draco's fingers barely brushed against hers on the table. A silent promise. A question waiting to be answered. And Hermione, despite every warning in her mind, didn't pull away. 4. The breaking point. The moment it all unraveled was a stormy evening in the astronomy tower. Rain lashed against the stone, the wind howling through the night. Hermione stood with her arms wrapped around herself, staring at the castle grounds below. She had been waiting for him, though she wouldn't admit it to herself. When Draco finally arrived, he looked furious. "What the hell, Granger?" he snapped, striding toward her. "You vanish for a week, act like I don't exist, and then summon me here like some sort of... I don't know what to do," Hermione blurted out, turning to face him. Us. It's madness, Malfoy. It's dangerous. And it's... real," he finished, stepping so close that she could see the raindrops caught in his lashes. "It's real." Hermione squeezed her eyes shut. "If anyone finds out..." "I don't care," he admitted, and she saw the truth in his face. And suddenly, she realized neither did she. Not anymore. She reached for him, and when he kissed her this time, it wasn't stolen. It wasn't secret. It wasn't forbidden. It was a choice. 5. The twist. For the first time, Hermione felt free. But freedom was fleeting. Because the next morning, as she stepped into the Gryffindor common room, Harry was waiting for her. His arms were crossed, his face unreadable, but his words cut through her like a dagger. "I know." Hermione's breath caught in her throat. "Know what?" Harry's jaw tightened. "You and Malfoy." A chill ran down her spine. She opened her mouth to protest, to deny, to fix this before it spiraled. But Harry wasn't finished. "I don't care that you're with him," he said slowly. "But you need to know something, Hermione." She swallowed. "What?" Harry exhaled, his green eyes dark with something she couldn't place. "Malfoy isn't who you think he is." Hermione's stomach dropped. "Harry, what?" But before she could finish, Ron burst into the room, his face flushed, a piece of parchment crushed in his hand. "You need to read this," he panted, thrusting it toward her. Hermione unfolded the paper. Her vision blurred as she read the words scrawled in elegant script. "Granger, meet me in the dungeons. Alone. D. Dot." Her heart pounded. She turned to Harry, her voice shaking. "What do you mean?" Harry's eyes darkened. "Malfoy's playing a dangerous game," he said grimly. "And I don't think you're the only piece on the board." To be continued. Would Hermione go? Was Draco lying? What secrets was he hiding? Let me know if you want a part 2.